Taking us to the front page of the Telegraph. Josh, what have they got?
They got loads of stuff. Good old Telegraph. They got lots of news here. All the news here. Obviously, the big story is Zahawi being sacked. And it's interesting to see how each paper has gone with a slightly different angle. Telegraph are saying that it's unfair. Essentially, it was without a fair hearing. Arguably, it's too late. I mean, this has been going on now for quite some time. And actually, the investigation that Sunak opened into him, they found 7 breaches of the ministerial rules. It was this 4-page report. It's pretty damning. So he had to go. I think what's kind of a little bit scary about what's happened is actually how Zahawi has tried to sort of stop the press from reporting on this in the past. And I think that is the real danger that hasn't been reported, is to how much he was using his money to kind of keep a lid on this for a long time. And this has been ongoing for a while now. Look, and when you look at the money involved here, he paid 4.8 million tax, which he hadn't paid, and 1.1 million as a penalty. We're not just talking about a couple hundred quid, a couple of thousand quid, a couple of 100,000 quid. We're talking about millions of pounds here, and this doesn't happen by accident as such. You know, he has accountants and whatnot.
Yeah, well, I mean, so one of the arguments against this is people saying those angry at it are angry because he's rich, that there's a certain type of Brit that seems to hate people with money. And that ignores the argument that this is to do with, like, why would you take the job, as briefly as you may well have had it, as Chancellor when you know you're about to be fined by HMRC, you're already paid one? There are other questions which actually, so I disagree, it's not about the size of those money. If he owed a couple of grand, then the same problem. If you're suing a journalist to stop them investigating how much you owe, it doesn't matter how much you owe. The problem is suing the journalist.
I guess I'm just talking about scale. Like, I could understand a few £1,000s when we are dealing with millions. If it was a few £1,000s and they got the figures a bit wrong, but this is obviously of such a scale that it doesn't seem like it could have been just an
Sometimes when
accident.
you're working with a calculator and you're drinking coffee and you're on screen, you miss that point, that button, or that zero.
Do you miss 6 zeros, though?
You know, if you're shaking a little bit.
All that coffee. Don't have that much coffee.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the kind of person you want as the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Exactly. I mean, I think Arniak is angry because Rishi's an accountant himself, and he's like, how could you screw up like this? We both know how important numbers are, and now I've got to fire you over this, and it makes me look bad, you know? I think it's been a tough 100 days for Rish. Only 100 days. Yeah. It's been a tough one, hasn't it?
Also, there's a conflict of interest that was obviously, you're the Chancellor, you're in charge of taxes, yet your taxes haven't been paid properly. So there's hypocrisy there, as you're saying. But again, like you say with Rishi Sunak, like his whole thing was he's going to lead the government with integrity, professionalism and accountability. And all we're seeing, he's just getting it at all angles.
After his wife had sort of bent the rules tax-wise already. I mean, these are 2 people now that have sort of bent the rules in their own favour. And we're just used to the Tories kind of reaching with their big hands and scooping out the cash and putting it in their own pockets, and then turning to us and saying, we're poor, right? A doctor's going to come to your house. There are no hospitals left. Sorry, there's no bus system left. Sorry, you're trapped. Sorry, you're starving. Oh, and here's bread made out of beans that we give to poor people. You're going to eat that, too. That's a story that's coming.
Enough of that. Yeah, more on that later.
It's just, it just doesn't look good. You have to wonder, they're spending so much time on this story, but what about Brexit? What about industrial problems? What about strikes, food banks, Tory infighting, the general election coming up? That's around the corner, too. I mean, they've got a lot of... I think there's a lot of reasons for the Tory party maybe to step back and reconfigure.
Do you think they should just, like, go, you know what, guys, Labour, you just take it. Well, we messed up here, we're sorry.
I think after this many years, I think they might... It'd be a relief. A couple of days in the spa, maybe some, you know, hydration... Maybe think about what they've done.
Little massage.
Well, you know, when you've had a bad show in Reading, and then you sit in the green room afterwards and you think, I'm a terrible comic. But, you know, you see a couple of days to yourself, you know, you call a friend.
This feels like a very specific story.
I'm just saying, you smoke a bit of weed and then suddenly you're the best comic in the world. I think they need a break from themselves. We're our own worst enemies, aren't we? So you step back, right?
Anything else on the front page before we move to
Yes, so there's Labour are going to block the law keeping schools open. So this is obviously, we've got the strikes coming up this week, and so the government are trying to introduce a law saying that they can't do it. So Labour are saying, no, we support working people because we've got Labour in our title. And then there's another thing, Sturgeon makes a U-turn on trans prison rules, which we're going to be covering in a sec. And there's also an interesting story here about University, London School of Economics are going to cancel the word Lent as it's too Christian. So because it's like there's a lot of international students, they see that as somewhat exclusive. Okay. If I'd paid all this money to come to the UK or to come to a different culture, I'd want, like, difference is good. You know what I mean? I'd be like, hey, where's my Lent? Where's my Christmas? You know, that's the pleasure of being in a different culture.
Are they just getting rid of it in terms of the noun?
They're doing it for 40 days.
Yeah. I was going to say, how are meant
That was
to
a
use,
Christian joke from a Jew.
how are meant to use the past participle of lend?
Yes.
They're banning that one as well.
Yeah.
Honestly, you can't say anything these days. Is that where the line we take
That's
on?
where we're
That's
at.
your line.
Yep.